Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. They offer a wide selection of high-quality plants, landscaping materials, and home decor. They do amazing high-quality work and can help you transform your indoor and outdoor living spaces into something beautiful. So stop by Casey's Outdoor Solutions today and let them know you appreciate their support for Rock Solid Radio. Visit Casey's today at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana.
Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, sitting here with my husband, who has a very strange grin on your face. If you're watching video, I'm not sure. What's this grin about?
Well, I am just looking at you, getting ready to see how red your face is going to get today. Look at you. You're going to blush today, aren't you?
Maybe we should just clear up the conversation. Merrill's grin. If you're listening, you're going to have to tune in via YouTube because this grin of yours is...
What are we doing on this show that they need YouTube?
Merrill's grin is because today we're talking about intimacy.
Oh, sex. Sex.
Which is exactly what we're talking about.
Whoa.
How you jumped to that.
That's why you said YouTube.
Yeah, well, no.
No, wait, that's a whole... No, we can't do that, honey.
Yeah.
That would be wrong.
Where to begin? So, anyway...
See, you're flustered.
We're getting
flustered.
We're getting ahead of ourselves here. Before we jump into that topic of intimacy in marriage, which, yes, we are going to be talking about sex, we might have to do a disclaimer, hun, that if you have small children that are around listening, we're not getting graphic, but we are talking about sensitive issues here.
Yeah. So this is going to be a show that in particular is for husbands and wives.
Yes.
We are going to talk about the importance of intimacy. We're going to get into a whole lot of the reasons why it's important. With the work that we do at Rock Solid Families as marriage and family coaches, it is definitely the level of intimacy is a barometer that we oftentimes refer to on not just how the sex life is going, but how the relationship's going. Yeah. And it actually is a good symptom indicator in terms of how the relationship's going. So we are going to get into that a little bit and talk about, going beyond treating the symptoms, how do we get to the core of the problem? So that's where we're going today.
Yeah.
Your kids will probably go, get a room. I mean, that's stupid.
Actually, we love it when our kids say that.
Well, yeah.
Because it means that there is life still in the relationship.
All right. Before we get all weird and everything, let's just thank our sponsors, and then we'll get into a couple of announcements because this is going to be a show filled with a lot of good discussion, and one that we're hoping that if we can help you out, whether you have questions or just want to have some discussion about what this looks like in your house, maybe seeking out a little help would be a good thing to do, and you can do that with us. So we just first want to start with we got to thank our sponsors. So thanks to our newer sponsor that's come on board here in 2021, Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Casey's is just an awesome place. Yeah. You can check his place out over in Bright, Indiana. And man, our one of our longtime sponsors, Maxwell Construction. Yeah. And so we want to continue to thank those guys in 2021 for all they do. You know what they is so cool? They believe in the importance of keeping families together. And both of these guys are sponsoring, not really thinking it's going to do a ton in terms of bringing people in their door. But both of them have said it's not about that. It's about helping our community. And so for that reason, we want to say thanks, guys.
Yeah, and this is our second video podcast. So if you've been following us on Rock Solid Radio on all your podcast platforms, you want to check us out on YouTube. This is our second video. So if you're not watching us, if you're just listening to us, you're missing our beautiful studio that is still in progress.
I thought you were going to say beautiful face.
Yes, well, that's yours, babe. But
you haven't ripped on me for my clothes yet.
No, because you actually dressed up today.
I did. I'm kind of lumberjackish today.
He's got a lumberjack look. But we're working on our studio. We're waiting on our logo and stuff that's going to go here in this blank space we've got. So you did let me get a tree.
So what do you guys think? Do we need a tree in the studio? Or not?
Well, you need some kind of greenery. Everybody knows that. Like just a little bit of breaking it up.
Kyle doesn't think so.
Oh, that's strong dads.
Me and Kyle don't need no greenery.
And again, if you haven't tuned in, Strong Dads is our other podcast that Rock Solid Families sponsors, and we have gone in a video format for that. For you guys have too, you and Kyle Crawford. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We actually have 3 YouTube channels now. Yeah. Rock Solid Families that has some material and resources on it, but then we also have heard the experts say we needed to have a separate channel for Rock Solid Radio and then Strong Dads. So subscribe to all 3. We'd love to have you there.
So Rock Solid Radio, Strong Dads, and Rock Solid Families. Yeah. And so the podcast or YouTube versions, of course, are going to be on the name of the show, Rock Solid Radio or Strong Dads. So please help us out with that. You know, the biggest part of this is not just you subscribing, but you know, the bottom line is this is resource based. It's informational. Mm-hmm. If this is helpful to you or you recognize it being helpful, it was interesting. I worked with a couple the other day, and they were talking about how stuff that we've done to help them, and now they're helping other couples. And really, that's what this is about. I mean, this is not like, it's not like we've got a corner on the market here. If we can help you help somebody else, then let's do it. This is about better families.
That's funny you said that, hon, because I actually got a call just the other day from someone who had been referred by one of our clients who said that her friend has been giving her these tools and resources and learning new skills. Yeah. And she said, I feel like I need to come in and learn them myself. But she has been sharing, her friend's been sharing these shows and teaching her some of the things she's learning. And so that's what we do. That's the whole goal, is that we equip and encourage and support one another in this mission of strong and healthy families. Yeah. So that's why we're here.
So let's get rolling about sex. I mean, wait, you wanted to call it intimacy.
Yes, because that's
a guy says, dude, we're going to call this sex.
Okay, well, that's why we're doing this show. Because honestly,
man, us guys probably got it wrong again.
We kind of avoided some of this conversation because it can be so controversial, and for some it's very awkward. I mean,
it's like the talk.
We've gotten kind of over that. Like, we'll flat out ask you, when's the last time you had sex?
Whoa!
And some people are like, oh my gosh. I mean, we won't like ask that the minute you walk in the door, but if you're working with us,
within a second minute or so.
Oh, stop it! But it can be awkward, right? And for some, it's very private. But it definitely is very telling, don't you think, hon?
It is very telling. And, you know, it's telling because, as we're going to get into, in order to be close to somebody, in order to let somebody, even in your personal space, hon, I don't know about you, well, I know we're both kind of protectors of our personal space, but I'm a big protector of my personal space. I don't like people touching me unless I kind of gave permission to be touched. Yeah. Well,
we're going down.
I'm not talking,
very strange road right now.
I'm like, have you ever met somebody who they come up and when they say, hi, how you doing? They're like right in your face. Oh, yeah.
We should do this like.
No. See, that like freaks me out. I don't want to be doing that. There's a time and a place, Linda.
I know.
And so getting into somebody's space is difficult. And if things are not right, people won't allow it. They will reject it. And we see it in marriages all the time.
Yeah.
And so it becomes part of a leverage, a manipulation. It can be used as a weapon. So there's a lot of things that go on here, and we're going to get into that a little bit more.
And the reason why I wanted to use a different word, hon, than sex is that intimacy is much more than sex.
There you go. You're making it difficult again.
And it doesn't even have to involve sex, because sometimes...
Whoa. Wait.
Seriously, honey.
Guys, I'm sorry. She's ruining the show.
This is the reality, and a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people's married world is that sex is no longer an option. Whether there is, and you mentioned it earlier in another show, of just about if there's physical reasons.
Right.
And so it doesn't have to be sex. Not saying we don't want sex in the marriage, but it is often one of the presenting problems if there's not physical intimacy, is what we're going to be talking about. And so it's a huge, great indicator. But, Google defines intimacy as close familiarity and friendship and closeness. Okay.
So the term closeness, but when we get into our relationships, we kind of break it down and talk about the different types, and that's what we're going to get into a little bit here initially here. there is the physical intimacy, so the getting close physically.
Yeah.
And again, we're going to generalize a little bit, and we might be off for your particular relationship because not everybody follows the exact same role in this. But generally speaking, and research shows this, guys are more wired towards seeking physical intimacy. Okay. Well, yeah, a little contact. Never hurt anybody. Contact sport, And so that's the physical side. Well, you better explain your side because I'll screw that up.
Yeah. Well, and here's the part of intimacy that, generally speaking, women desire an emotional connection with their husband, that closeness, feeling cared for, feeling valued. We have seen it flip, right?
Yeah.
We've seen the woman that's the pursuer and the desired one for more physical intimacy, and the guy's like, I want you to talk about my feelings. But that's rare.
Yeah, that's really weird.
That's rare. Stop it.
No, I'm sorry.
But when both people are not connecting in an intimate way, then you have a problem. And it's only a matter of time, hon, before really trouble comes in the marriage.
So working the two types of intimacy that we're talking right now, and there's actually a third part that is really going to help complete what we're talking about as a faith-based marriage. But what happens when I don't feel, in my case, physically like the intimacy for me physically is not happening, and hun, when you feel like I'm just sort of neglecting your emotional side, then we'll just use the word sex. Then sex becomes that manipulation tool.
Yeah.
It can become a lever. It can become abusive. It can become authoritative. It can be controlling. There's lots of things that it becomes, and I think, we see this all the time, not like just once in a while. And even in healthy marriages. So you can have a healthy marriage, but if one of you is hurting, and I'll say more so that we see it on the emotional side. I mean, you could have had a healthy marriage, but all of a sudden, something emotionally is kind of hurting one of the people in the marriage. Sex just ain't happening, right? And so it falls out of favor. And part of our discussion here is why we need to keep it back in favor, why we need it, because it does feed both people and it feeds the marriage.
Hon, I was thinking about this topic, and I'm not using a specific example of anybody, but let's pretend that I lost my grandma and we took off work to go to her funeral. And I am just an emotional wreck. I'm just... I'm devastated, I'm heartbroken, and you, on the other hand, are all excited about being off work together and the kids are at school. And so your thoughts are, hey, after the funeral, we can have some sex. And so, again, I'm not using this as a specific example, but I'm just saying that, I'm devastated and emotionally I'm wrought, I'm just, having a hard time. And then you're thinking, hey, physically we can be together. But if emotionally, I'm not emotionally there, I'm not going to enjoy that. I'm not going to, again, if you tap into the emotional piece, maybe just cuddle me and hold me and tell me it's going to be okay and I know you're having a tough day, that might emotionally draw me in. But if you're like, hey, hun, we got time, it's not going to go over well.
Right. And I mean, that's part of reading each other.
Yes.
And understanding what the needs are of each other. So we're going to get into that a little bit more. But, we make no bones about it. We are a faith-based ministry, and this is a faith-based show. And in this particular topic, this is very important, and it's important because the world's view has weighed in on this topic from every angle with a lot of intensity, and it has become commonplace to think just like the world does. And in fact, if you don't do it the way the world does, there's something wrong with you. Here's our point: the way the world is doing it, the facts speak for themselves. It's not working, and it's falling apart. And so God basically created this whole thing called marriage and created this whole thing called sex, whether it's on the physical or the emotional side. So he created it. And
emotional sex? Emotional intimacy.
Well, hey, aren't they the same? And I'm getting all tripped up.
Yeah.
And so the idea that he's created it means that it is something very important and valuable in his world. And so in 1 Corinthians, we want to read this because this actually right away steers away from the worldview. Okay. Yep. And so our work, when we work with people, we go, well, I've got my idea or my opinion, but let me run it by God's word, because if it doesn't coincide with God's word, I might be off base on it. And so this is a typical scripture that really helps us get grounded in how we're supposed to treat and think about sex. So 1 Corinthians 7, verses 3 through 5. The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but yields it to her husband. Oh, right there, we'd like to stop, right? We'd like to stop. No, not so lucky. Yeah. In the same way, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but yields it to his wife. Do not deprive each other, except perhaps by mutual consent and for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. Then come together again, so that Satan... Listen to this, so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. So there's a very clear statement about our bodies are shared, and our bodies are need by each other.
In marriage.
And all of this is based in marriage. It's not even based in dating or dating for a long time or living together.
Or
it's based in marriage.
Dating with benefits or something like that? Friends with benefits?
Friends with benefits. Why buy the cow? You get the milk free. So anyway, the idea here is very important for us to see how God looks at this. And this is not to be used as a tool of manipulation. It is to be shared commonly among the couple.
Yeah. Can I speak to that for a second, hon? Because, this is really an issue for a lot of women. Their feeling is like, hey, you don't get any. You don't deserve any. And I'm just going to withhold it from you. And it says, do not deprive each other except by mutual consent, and only for a time. I'm not going to justify a man going outside the marriage, but he has physical needs, just like women have emotional needs, and vice versa. And so it needs to be met by our spouse. If it's not met by our spouse, then you're going to see trouble and you're going to see conflict come. And so this scripture tells us, like, we are to be one flesh. We're to look at what the needs are of our spouse and to fulfill those needs because of how Christ wired us and designed our marriage.
But guys, I'm going to call us guys out on this, because right away we can get the idea that when we read this, that it is just about us being physically quenched in this area. And this only works when we are quenching the emotional need for our ladies. And so if we miss that part, we're not giving ourselves fully to our wife, okay? Right. We're not giving, when you give somebody something, you're giving something they want to receive.
Yes. Yeah.
And so if you're just giving yourself to her and she's like, this is not doing much for me, then that's not giving, okay? And so we really have to be careful about how we're fulfilling this. When we do see it,
work well.
Yeah. I mean, you see people fulfilled. Yeah. You see compassion for each other and a willingness to serve each other like never before. We love to see couples that have been married for 50 plus years and their sexual intimacy is still rocking it.
They get a little grin on their face.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool.
And you're like, okay, that's weird. And so
it's not weird. I love it.
It's not weird at all. And so
it's unique.
It's that whole idea that the two really are one, and they build each other. They fill each other.
Yeah. And early on, hon, I don't think I got this. I don't think I realized that I needed to be emotionally prepared to give you what you needed. And I was a stay-at-home mom with little kids. I was babysitting more little kids. And so by the time you got home, I didn't really have a whole lot left.
Right.
And so I needed to make changes in my schedule, in my priorities, to make sure that I had something left for you. And you had to help me. You maybe had to let me go take a nap while you cook dinner, or, let me go sit and read while you put the kids to bed, because then I could have something left for you. But us moms, I'm just speaking to the ladies, we think we're super women and that we can do it all. We can work all day, come home, cook dinner, put the kids in their baths in bed, and then their husband's kind of going, hey, honey, and you're like, I don't have anything left. And that's not fair to your husband.
Right. Well, and then he takes that wrong, but since he's rejecting the news, then he's being a jerk to her, or he's kind of a sourpuss about it. And the next thing you know, that is not fulfilling your emotional need. Right. You're already wiped out. And so that's just adding one more burden of inadequacy, of just lack of self-esteem for yourself and for the marriage. So anyway, what helps us bring this together is the third, and maybe in many ways the most important part for this to be long lasting. So what brings it together is what we refer to here as spiritual intimacy. And spiritual intimacy here is the idea that God is involved. That it's not just my physical flesh, Linda, or your physical flesh. It's that, no, we're going to invite God into this, and we're going to let God be the glue, and his word, as we spoke to earlier, be essential in what we're doing here.
Super glue, I call it. I really believe it's the Gorilla Glue of our marriage. You know, we believe at Rock Solid Families that the super glue is the spiritual intimacy, inviting God in. I mean, Genesis 2:24 says, therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and, hold fast to the wife, and they shall be one flesh. Like, we're called to be one flesh. And when you are one flesh, there is no division. There is no conflict, because you're one. You're united, and spiritually, physically, emotionally, and that is beautiful.
Right. Yeah, I describe that all the time when I'm working with couples, as the idea of, if you truly start to understand what the one flesh means, the two become one. And I tell you, this is another world message. I'll be myself, you be you. Okay. Well, I mean, in a physical way, yeah, well, I get that. But if we're really going to be connected spiritually, I kind of use this analogy all the time. If Linda stubs her toe, I need to feel that pain. And what that means is I'm in tune when she's not feeling well, when she's tired, when she's emotionally distraught. I feel it, and I also own a portion of that. I connect to it. And vice versa physically, okay? And whether I would be exhausted or tired or hurt or whatever, that it is not just disregarded, but it is like, okay, this is my partner and they're struggling right now.
Right.
When we start to understand that the two become one, then I will be much more in tune with taking care of the needs of not just myself, but to take care of my partner's needs.
And, and this is where women struggle, I think, because guys have this physical need to have sex. And so if it's all about their release and their need, and it's nothing about their partner's needs, their partner's heart, or pleasing the Lord, glorifying God. I mean, like you said, hon, why buy the cow when you get the milk for free? Why get married and commit to a woman if he can have sex with her and not have to marry her, not have to commit? And that doesn't glorify God. And that steps outside of God's plan for this intimacy we're talking about.
Yeah.
It really puts your heart out there to be trampled on.
Right.
And that's where we get seen a lot of hurt.
And as you said earlier, once one of us or both of us are hurt, we abstain, we control, we become nasty with the whole sexual intimacy part.
Yeah.
When it all comes together, when I'm emotionally connecting, Linda, to your needs, when you're physically connecting to my needs, and when we are spiritually basing this together and understanding that we're constantly reading each other, then it's good.
Yeah. And then again, the super glue only works when we're talking about the marriage bed. Okay. He's not going to bless your unfaithfulness, your lack of commitment. This is a husband and a wife. This is a man and a woman. God is going to bless that marriage bed. He's going to bless that union, because in his eyes, in God's word, that's one flesh.
Right. Sex outside of the marriage bed is just that. It's just sex. It's not sexual intimacy. It's not spiritual. It's just sex. It's an act. And so that's why it's not blessed. And that's why all the time it leads to disaster, hurt, and pain, and destruction. And so if you don't believe that, just look up any statistics manual on marriage and families, and you'll quickly see that. So this is really nothing new to us. It's one of those things that we try to cheat. Like, it's almost like eating sugar. If I eat a little sugar, will I really get diabetic or fat? And I'll hedge my bet.
And that actually leads me to my next point, our next point is that, and everybody's different. You know, people have asked us before, like, how much is good sex? Like, how often, how regular, how long? And we can't answer that for you.
Do you want me to define that?
No, I do not. Do not.
Guys, I almost had my chance right
Holy
there.
cow.
I'm getting red.
But it's kind of like your body temperature. Talk about that, because you're the biology teacher.
I mean, that is important. Like, we never go through and look at a couple and say, well, you should be having sex 3 times a week or every day or once a year. We don't say that, because what makes it work is when it works for both of them. And so part of that is the two of you coming together. And so you have to be really careful about reading magazines, about looking at all of what's the average?
Comparing.
What's the average? You know, just like body temperature. I mean, the average body temperature is like 98.6. If I'm running 98.6, I got a small fever, right? I mean, all my temperature's always in the 97s, always. And so, you know, if I'm 99, I'm smoking hot, you know. So
you are smoking hot,
see,
babe.
there you go. So anyway, that is the same kind of idea. Be careful looking at what everybody else is saying. The most important thing that you can do in this situation is have some conversation about, well, what are our needs?
Yeah.
What is our temperature?
Right. And that's what our first recommendation would be, is to sit down and really have honest conversation about, how are you guys doing physically? How do you feel? What's going on in your heart? Emotionally, do you feel like your partner is gentle with you and patient with you? Or is he rushing? Is she rushing into something that you're not ready for during the day? We tease about this all the time, hun. Guys are like, in our experience, most guys are like microwaves. And sometimes you just got to push that add 30-second button, and we got some heat going on.
15.
But girls are more like crock pots, you know, and you kind of have to turn the crock pot on and
What about that Instapot? Does that come into this conversation at all? That's
Holy
not going to
cow.
work either, is it? Oh, man, we're trying to work it.
No, you're not. But.
You know, but I think also along that line, it's important that you have the conversation, right? But also you've got to be serious and honest in this conversation. One of the greatest frustrations I know that men run into all the time, they'll say, I do want to try to please her. But when I ask her what she wants, she says, I don't know. I don't know. And so you have to speak, whether that's how to stimulate, how much warm-up time is needed, how frequent, and if ladies or gentlemen, but in the case that I'm thinking here is the ladies going, I don't know. Well, saying that because you don't want to disappoint him, or maybe because you just don't know, only leads to greater frustration. So if he's going to ask you, well, you know, how can I help? Man, you got to be thinking. You got to help him help you. I mean, like I said, most guys, especially early on in a marriage, really want to help.
They want some guidelines.
It's when they've gone just sort of absent for so long that they go, I don't know, whatever. I don't know what else I can do.
And I think this is a good time, hun, to put a disclaimer in here, because we've worked with a lot of folks who have some abuse in their past, sexual abuse, some trauma. And so the husband will come to the relationship, and I'm speaking obviously from the female point of it, and something the husband does triggers a memory. Something in the past that they forgot all about, or they thought they had gotten over. And wow, that husband is like, where did that come from? Why are you pushing me away? Why are you upset with me? Why are you yelling? And it has nothing to do with the husband. And so I would just really encourage you, if you are having intimacy issues, especially in the physical intimacy, ladies, if maybe there's some suppressed memories, maybe there is trauma you've never worked through, I really recommend call us at Rock Solid Families, get some professional help, because there is something better on the other side. Okay, you don't have to say, can't ever have sex because of what happened to me in the past, but it is going to probably mean some changes for the husband, some patience on his part, because there are things in her past that are really hurting.
Another thing that we will always try to help couples with when we're struggling in this area is the idea of, you have to recognize the direction that you come at this sexual intimacy thing. You have to recognize somewhat of maybe how you experience sex, how your selfish nature. Like, I can't see things through your eyes, or I can't experience things physically through you. So if I only think about my way on this, I will only be seeking to please me. Yeah. And so you have to understand how your selfishness drives you, especially in the sexual act. And backing away from that and having like this conversation that we're talking about and allowing me to ask, okay, so what would drive you, Linda? What would help you? And starting to think a little bit of how I can help serve that need opens up a whole new door.
Yeah. And so, also physical intimacy is a byproduct of a healthy relationship. And so if there's trust issues, if there's been some betrayal or some miscommunication that has left you feeling like you don't know their intentions, those matter. And so it's going to affect you in the bedroom. And so maybe there has been somebody stepping outside the marriage. Maybe there has been some questions about their integrity. That's going to affect every area, emotionally, spiritually, physically.
Yeah, I think this is huge, hon. I mean, especially, it only takes one time that trust is broken. It only takes a show of ill intent one time. And a lot of times the ill intent is not necessarily mean. It's that, I know you're just in this for yourself. Yeah. Your intentions Sometimes are just self-driven. Yeah. And so trust is huge. If you, especially in the sake of going outside of the marriage at a time and then trying to come back, you're going to have to work that process. And we did an entire show on rebuilding trust. Yeah. And there is no magic formula to that. It is hard work, but you have to understand how you got there, and then step by step start to work it back. So trust is huge, especially when you're talking about intimacy.
But ladies, I'm just going to remind you what Merrill said earlier, and it goes for us ladies. We cannot use sex as a pawn. We cannot hold it against them and dangle it in front of them like a carrot that we take away and give to them when we feel it's right. That's unfair. The Bible says that our bodies are not our own, that we are to share and be one flesh. And so we cannot withhold that, thinking that it's okay because we're mad at them. Every day we're mad at them, we're withholding those things. Yes, resolve those issues emotionally, but physically you need to come together on a regular basis.
So, Hun, I'm going to just kind of stall over this question a little bit because I see the lady's question right now. Yeah. What if I'm not in the mood? Okay, right. Because we're talking about the importance of mood for a lady, and so what if I'm not in the mood, but he's Good knocking question. On my door? So what is your best advice? I'm certainly not going to, from a man's chair here, I'm not going to say just do it. That's not probably going to work from my chair.
That's a great question, and
but you could say that.
You hear that old saying all the time about I have a headache or I'm tired. Or I've had a long day. Those things work once in a while if that's really the case. But ladies, you cannot have a headache every day. You cannot be going through your cycle every day. Like those cannot be ongoing excuses why you're not physically intimate.
Right.
And so I have a thing. I know that you will respect my headache or my long day if I initiate more on the days that I have the emotional strength to be intimate with you. And so, ladies, I'm just telling you, if you initiate regularly, they'll wait for you. In the most cases, a good-willed man will wait for you on the days that it does work for you because he knows you need to be physically and emotionally connected with him.
Yeah, we talk a lot of times about making love deposits. And so, if we've been good to each other, we will be much more patient when things aren't quite going well. So being good to each other, even when we're not even talking about sex, goes a long way, especially in helping us get through these times. Yeah. Hun, let's talk about the idea of the Christ-centered marriage, okay? Yeah. Again, this is another thing that we've allowed to just be pushed off to the side, and the more you kind of tap into the model that God created, and the example that is used is Christ is oftentimes referred to as the bridegroom, which with the church being the bride.
The church is us.
Yeah, the people of the church, right? And so Christ has a type of role that he plays, and the church has a type of role, being the bridegroom and the bride. And so when you look at that as the model as to how we are to operate, if we can function that way, I mean, Christ was sacrificial, okay? And so as a bridegroom, as the man, I am called to be sacrificial. That means doing things that I don't always want to do. That means being patient. That means sacrificing and putting it out there. We oftentimes talk about the idea that men are kind of designed to die to protect. Okay, I will die for you. And not that a lady couldn't die for their family. I mean, I can definitely see ladies that would die for their children, but you don't often hear that a lady would say, I would die for my husband. But that phrase is used frequently, and it's used that way because men are designed that way, that we ultimately carry that burden.
Protector.
Okay, so that's the Christ side of it. The bride side of it is to totally honor and respect him and his position.
And give yourself to him.
And give yourself freely to him. And we are to do that. And as church members, we just think about how we actually live our spiritual life a lot of times. Well, I'm going to give Jesus a little bit.
Yeah.
I kind of believe in him. Yeah. I kind of am a little bit of a Jesus follower. I kind of buy some of his words.
Right.
And he says, no.
Right.
I need all of you, and I will give all of me.
Yeah. And so we kind of want you to think about these three pieces of the intimacy triangle like this. Physical intimacy, like we said, is usually what the man desires more of. It can be the opposite, but usually the men. And then the women, this emotional intimacy. And what we find is when we take those two and we draw those in and let Christ be the center and bringing us closer and closer to one flesh, we find that spiritual intimacy that just brings us into oneness. And it is so beautiful, and it is so strong in building our marriage to what God created it to be, what Christ gave us as his model. I love it.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so we're going to run through, we always have a challenge, but our challenge this time, I'm going to highly recommend that you get a piece of paper, a pen or something, because not only are we going to give you a challenge, but we're going to give you a step-by-step kind of sequence of things that you can go through to start. Now, it may seem very mechanical at first, but we talk about this all the time. If you've got bad habits, the only way to break them is to start with very step-by-step mechanical processes until they become natural. And so we want to walk through and say, okay, here are some steps that you can use to get your relationship right so that your sexual intimacy will be healthy.
Yeah. So first thing is to approach your spouse and ask them, can we set up a time to talk?
Yeah.
You're not going to come at them when you're not getting it or when you're rejecting your spouse. It's a different time where you say, hey, can I need your help. Can we talk? Because I really want to know, how can I meet your needs better? Like, what is it that you need from me? That just really brings down the defenses, I think, instead of like, you're not giving me what I need and I need more of this. That just pushes them away.
Yeah.
If you say, how can I help and meet your needs?
Yeah, avoiding the confrontation and the defensiveness.
Yeah.
So the next thing too is, if I'm going to go that far to ask for help, then I this is not a joke time. This is a serious time. So set apart a time of no distractions, okay? And no kids around, no screens around.
Yeah.
I would even recommend that we're not just driving. Sometimes we have a good conversation when we're driving, but sometimes we can be just distracted enough. And so, coming around a table as such.
And I wouldn't do a restaurant, especially when you're talking about sex.
Yeah.
And,
no, I'm keeping
the waiter's like, oh, I'll be back.
I'll have another drink, please.
Yeah, especially if he gets emotional, because sometimes ladies, they don't feel comfortable talking about it, period,
right.
Let alone in public.
Right. So the second thing was to set up the actual time and make it protected.
Yeah.
Right. What's the third thing?
So I think when you sit down and talk with your spouse, you need to give them permission to be honest. I really do want to know and not interrupt. Let them speak and don't try to correct or justify or rationalize what you do or what you don't do. Just listen.
Yeah. Yeah. And giving permission that I can speak honestly, I think is so huge. Okay. Yeah. And then when you do talk, all right, once I know I have permission from Linda, like she says, no, I want you to be honest. Tell me everything you need to tell me. Then I have to be really, really, really careful with making broad statements like, I'm just not happy. Or
that's like fingernails on a blackboard.
It never works. No, I have to be specific. Yeah. Like, I have to hear things like,
you never hold my hand.
You don't hold my hand. Or I feel rejected every time I pursue you. I have to be specific. And so as Linda just said, once I get specific, the person who I am delivering that to, do not defend that. Just listen to them.
Okay, so I need to correct myself because I would be I would be correcting a couple if they said that way. I want you to use your I statements, okay? I don't want you to say, you never hold my hand, okay? I apologize. That's not what I would have you say. I would rather you say, I love it when you hold my hand. So again, it comes off positive. It comes off, proactive. Like, this is what we can do. Don't accuse him of never doing that, but let him know that means a lot to you when he grabs your hand, maybe in the car or sitting next to you at church, that really means a lot to you.
Right. Okay. So the next part is actually avoid.
I don't.
Well, we already did that, but that whole idea of avoiding improper humor, poor sarcasm, and here's
not
why
a good
I'm
time for
saying
sex
this,
jokes,
because a lot of times this is, as we talked about earlier, this is a tough conversation, and a lot of us like to deflect. We're like, I don't know if I want to have this conversation, and a lot of us throw in either sarcasm or ill-placed humor.
Oh, yeah.
And when we're going down this road, when you're dealing with people's emotions, this is not the time, because as soon as somebody starts cracking jokes, they've minimized what the other person has brought to the table. And so I'm going to ask all you jokesters out there, which I happen to be one of them. And so I've learned through trial and error that humor has its place. And this is not one of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially if there's trauma.
Yeah.
Because, wow, you may think it's just a joke that, you scare your spouse, but to them, it's traumatic.
Yeah.
And you don't want to minimize that. Also, then we want you to start some small practices of just really building that emotional intimacy by just 15 minutes a day. We've talked about this in a lot of shows, but what's super important, if you just commit to every day taking a temperature read of your relationship with your spouse by sitting down uninterrupted, at least 15 minutes just to check in and to catch up.
It does not have to be like, well, what should I say? Just talk about your day.
Yeah.
Literally, just talk about today I got up and I went to work and so on, because it's really not all the words that are coming out of your mouth that's important. What's really important is for us guys, it's very important that we're looking at the heart of our wife and we're reading how the emotions are rolling through that day, okay? And so it doesn't take me long at all to hear Linda speak, and by looking at her posture and her eyes and her tone, for me to go, oh, okay, today we're kind of in an emotional deficit, or today, man, we're flying high, okay? And then to tap into that in the way that allows you to both enjoy and celebrate that. And if not, you can still encourage and help her. Like if you had a hard day, for me to go, well, I hope it gets better tomorrow.
I'm going up for a run.
Yeah. But to say, hey, something as simple as, what can I do for you?
Yeah. Or I just know for a lot of ladies, it's just a matter of, hey, come here, let me, give me a hug. Or, hey, can I hold you? Because sometimes you don't have answers. You don't have to fix it, but it's just a matter of being present.
Yeah. Just know that somebody's out there and they see your emotion.
Yeah.
Another thing, especially with all of us, all of this is under the supposed idea that we don't even know what perfection is. And so none of us are perfect. And so we are going to screw this up. Sometimes you're going to say the wrong thing. Sometimes you're going to miss the mark. And so please avoid keeping score on how perfect you've been and how ill-perfect your partner's been. Yeah. Listen, I mean, that gets exhausting. I can't even tell you how many times I've heard somebody say in a counseling session, I'm just not enough. I'm not good enough. I mean, I screw up every day, and she points it out or he points it out. And so you've got to get rid of the scorekeeping, get rid of your little Patty Perfect attitude, because that is not helping this situation.
I've actually had people who have kept score. Like they've kept track how many times they've had sex or not had sex or what they've done to their spouse. And man, you're never going to win. Neither one of you are going to win. Your marriage isn't going to win if you're keeping track or keeping score.
Supply some grace.
Yeah. because like you said, no one's perfect.
Yeah, always be able to supply that grace. Yeah. You might have to supply it today, but I bet you they're going to supply it tomorrow because we're just going to need that. So, extending that, hey, it's all right. It's no big deal.
Okay.
Let's stay with it.
So I got one more, and I'm just telling you.
Wait. Are you surprising me with something?
I'm just telling you, there is nothing sexier than a couple who
pray. Let me write this down.
A couple who prays together.
Oh.
It is sexy. I mean, guys, if you want to get to your woman's heart, grab her hand and say, hey, let's pray. And just pray for her by name. Pray to the Lord and just say how special she is to you and how thankful you are for her. Oh my gosh, that builds physical intimacy and emotional intimacy faster than ever.
I've got a confession.
What? Oh no.
So sometimes the Bachelor TV program is viewed at our house. Okay?
Boy, you are getting...
I'm going out there.
By both of us.
You started. And something happened in this year's start of the show that I don't think I've ever seen.
I have never seen it.
And
I might have watched it for a while.
Yeah, maybe. And at the start of the show, when the gentleman was meeting all the ladies, he did something that was unprecedented, and that is he got all the ladies' attention. And I point this out for a reason, so hang with me. Don't turn us off yet. He said, I want to pray for all of us. Now, whether you agree with this whole show premise or not, that's not
Especially
my point.
if he ends up in bed with them.
Yeah, that's not my point. My point is this. He prayed. He prayed out loud for that entire group of women. Okay. And then when they were done, there was woman after woman that were in tears.
Right.
Emotionally moved and actually stating on camera,
yeah,
I can't believe he did that. That was beautiful.
That was sexy.
And so I point that out because when you're speaking to God about your partner, there's nothing more intimate. There's nothing closer. And because it's not like when I'm praying to Linda. I'm praying to God about Linda and being thankful. And so the idea that she thinks that she is held in such esteem that I can talk to God about her is just a pretty cool thing.
And when I was in the seminary, one of the statistics that I've mentioned before, because it's such a profound one, is that couples who regularly pray together, less than 1% divorce. Less than 1%. And the reason I believe is because if you pray with your partner on a regular basis, it's super hard to, one, be mad at them for long. I've tried to be mad at you before, and you grab my hand and say, we've got to pray. And I'm like, I don't like you right now. Get over it. and then the other one is to lie. It's hard to lie to your spouse when you've invited God into the conversation. And so that just builds intimacy. It creates transparency and vulnerability into something so beautiful, so sexy. I'm just telling you, I've had more couples who have taken me up on this challenge and have come back and said, it's the best thing we've ever done for our marriage.
Right.
And it's brought us closer than we've ever been before.
Because of the third intimacy, the spiritual intimacy. And so, we've made it through. Okay. we made it through. We started off with a little bit of joke, but the reason, Linda and I talked a lot about doing a show like this, and because we see the frequency of the problem. And, this is not something that needs to be difficult. God designed it to be beautiful and essential. And so we have to get back on his page to make it work right. And so we felt like, let's do this show. Let's do it justice. And let's see what we can do, help people to get back together again and be sexually intimate through both physical, emotional, and spiritual intimacy.
And as we close, I just want to remind you, if this isn't your issue, it is somebody's issue that you know. And they may not be talking about it. It's like the elephant in the room for them as a couple. And so please share the show. It's so important. It can be viewed in the privacy of their own home, in their own car. They don't have to tell anybody about their problems. So it's really important that we get these messages out because we want our families and our marriages healthy and strong.
All right. Very good. we are going to close things out. Again, if you like the show, share it, give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to all of our channels, whether it's on YouTube or any of the other hosting platforms. We want to say thank you to Maxwell Construction and to Casey Outdoor Solutions for believing that families are important and marriages are important. And so we just want to say thanks to all of you guys. So, hon, do your final thing here.
Yeah, whether you're watching online on YouTube or listening to us on our podcast platforms, thank you. Thank you for watching and listening to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day. Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Maxwell Construction, who has been our sponsor since the very beginning. For over 30 years, Maxwell has delivered the highest quality projects by holding to their core values of customer satisfaction, positive attitude, respect, and excellence. So if you have any kind of commercial construction need, give Maxwell Construction a call today at 812-537-2200.